caliber introduces you like that, you've got to be good. And I am also incredibly privileged to be able to share my thoughts with this incredible platform. So first of all, I want to congratulate everyone who has participated in this panel, and in fact, everyone who has been an attendee. Simply by being part of this event, you are demonstrating your faith in your ability to rise above circumstances. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today. I am, as you've heard, a motivator. I'm a strategic coach. I'm the founder of a research and motivation company called Environics Lipkin here in Toronto. But now what I specialize in is what I call leading the recovery. And what I want to do over the next couple minutes is just share with you some critical thoughts that I think will reinforce a lot of what we've already heard and hopefully give you some insights and strategies for thriving over the next couple months. So what I'm going to do over here is just share my screen, and then I'll come back after we see this. So let's just share the screen. Great. So you'll see that the title of my talk here today is Lead the Recovery. And, I've featured the mask as a kind of symbol of these times. I mean, who would have thought back even at the beginning of March that we would be walking around with masks? And in fact, who would have thought that we would go into a store and be uncomfortable if someone is within 6 feet of us not wearing a mask? So look, this is something that began as an acute shock, and now COVID slash Corona has become an excruciating grind. All the medical professionals that I'm talking to say that this is going to be with us for at least the next couple of years. We're going to have spikes, we're going to have ebbs, but this is the new normal. So this is not a case of saying this is not a good time or this is a good time. This is the way it is. And like gravity, we just need to accept it. So look, what I'm going to talk to you about today, and I cannot think of a more relevant group of people to turn into potentiators than the folks who are on this call. So I want you to look at that word, potentiator. You probably will not have seen it before because I made that word up. There is a verb called to potentiate, which means to increase the power or the skill of, but the potentiator is the noun of the verb. So if you think about the definition of the potentiator and you think about your world, think about this. Are you someone who brings people together so they can achieve more? Tick. Are you someone that helps people live the dream? That's exactly what your role is, because you are there to give them a return that they can otherwise only dream of. And then fundamentally, and this is the key focus that I want to communicate to you today, and that is all of us really are people who make a living creating breakthroughs with others. So this is not a talk that I would give to that many people, but everyone who's on this call is someone whose mission is not just to maintain status quo. It's not even to be satisfactory. It's to create breakthroughs for others. So let's just talk a little bit about what the word breakthrough means. And, we've had a lot of coverage already on this call about the meaning of words. And when you are talking to folks, you better understand what they mean when they use the words that they mean, because we like people who we sense are like us. We like people who use the words that we use. We like people who seem to understand us at a heart, mind, body, and soul level. And so I ask myself, if I use the word breakthrough, what exactly is a breakthrough? So a breakthrough is an action that moves someone through an obstacle, or it's a sudden insight that enables somebody to achieve a remarkable result. And I know that many of you on this call have probably already had a breakthrough on this call because you've got an insight, and now it's going to help you achieve a remarkable result. Very importantly, a breakthrough is a personal victory over doubt that liberates someone from their fear. And I will tell you that all of us on this call have got a fear that only we can see. And when we share our fear with others, they might say to us, why are you scared of that? You shouldn't be afraid of that. But that's what I call a precondition. So a precondition is not just a physical state that renders you vulnerable to COVID. It's an emotional and a mental state that you take into this environment with you. And so you and I need to help liberate people from their fear, because otherwise they're not going to make any decisions. Inertia will then overwhelm their desire to take action. A breakthrough is also a decisive discovery that causes extraordinary success. And you and I, and by you, I mean everyone on this call, we're going to be evaluated by how we help people achieve extraordinary success in this environment. In short, a breakthrough is whatever people need most in that moment. So before I get into any dialogue where I have the chance, as opposed to now where this is more of a monologue, I really want to understand what people want in that moment, what they need in that moment. Because the moment I understand what you need most, I can then position myself as the individual who can give it to you. So look, we're all superheroes on this call, everyday superheroes. And like any superhero, we've got to have 3 superpowers. And I'm going to walk you through your 3 superpowers. I'm going to walk you through the importance of certainty. I'm going to walk you through this extraordinary thing called charisma. And then I'm going to talk to you about conditioning, which is what will enable you to stay the course. So let's look at the first superpower, which is certainty. And one thing is for certain. So while we've heard the phrase on this call today that we're hearing, I don't know, or haven't got a clue, the one thing I can tell you for certain is things will only become more uncertain. We're living in the age of VUCA, which is volatility, uncertainty, and a lack of clarity, and of course, ambiguity. And so there are 5 elements to generating your certainty from within. And the first is, whatever's going on in your life right now, you have to know that you are built for this. How do I know that? Because you are where you are, things are the way they are, and this is just the way it is. Nothing happens that was not supposed to happen. Now, some of you might be questioning what I just said, but here's what I want to tell you. If you believe that you are designed for these times, if you believe that these times represent incredible opportunity, that's how you act and that's how you occur to others. Number 2, you have to make fear your fuel. Look, I am Mr. Confidence, except this is a confidence that I manufacture. And sometimes I sound a lot more confident than I really am. But I'll tell you this, we all have to be okay with not being okay. So just be okay with feeling that constant tension, but turn that tension into progress, not into something that holds you back. Number 3, all of us are learning real time, and we all need to experiment. And Thomas Edison said, an experiment is not an experiment if you know how it's going to turn out. So I have been doing at least 1 to 2 of these kind of presentations every day over the past 2 months. When I first started out talking directly to the webcam, I didn't have this level of fluency or this level of conviction or this level of ease with the medium. So I experimented with a lot of approaches. And the more you practice, the better you become. And of course, the more you experiment, the more you grow. Number 4, we've heard about a plan. And what I've also heard on this call is the power of simplicity. So for me, a plan really has 3 components to it. So first of all, I like the comment that David made in terms of, plan out for Christmas 2021 and have it in July 2020. Because for me, though, my goal is from now until December 31. So I've got a revenue target that I want to achieve. The reason why I want to achieve that revenue target, my purpose, by the way, is I want to get people excited irrespective of circumstance. And then there's certain actions that I need to take in order to deliver against that. So one of them is I've got to be talking, I've got to be experimenting, I've got to be connecting, and I've got to be learning, and I've got to be out there in the arena every day, because I know if I do that, the rest will follow. And then finally, and this is the challenge facing all of us, how do we become an essential service to the people that we serve? So you might say, well, Mike, what is an essential service, and how do I know if I've become an essential service? An essential service is when other people see you as integral to their success. And how do you know when you've become that essential service? When you call them, they take your call. It's as simple as that. Because we all have people in our lives that when we see their phone number on the call, we immediately take that call because that person represents opportunity. You want to spell opportunity in other people's minds. And the more people take your call, the more you know you are being an essential service to them. So that's your first superpower. And by the way, it comes first because if you have certainty, another word for certainty is courage or confidence. If you have this, then you can do everything else. If you don't have certainty, if you feel doubtful, if you feel fearful, if you're hesitant, then not much else is going to happen. All right, let's look at the second superpower, and this is charisma. Now, people often ask me, well, what does charisma actually mean? So if there's anyone on this call who is of Greek descent, you know that charisma is literally the Greek word for gift. If you go to Google Translate and you put in gift and then you call up Greek word, you'll see the word charisma. And what that means is all of us have a gift that makes us very attractive and very appealing to others. And there are various forms of charisma. So I've got a certain kind of high energy, high excitement charisma. Some of the folks, even on this call, might be a little more understated. But the moment you demonstrate your ability to help others, the more charismatic you become. And what's really important is that you focus on transmitting your charisma through this medium called Zoom or WebEx or Teams or GoToMeeting. So there are 5 elements to charisma. The first, and we often forget to do this, is you've got to act your role. So I'm being authentic here, and we know that that's a key theme, but I also know that for the very short time that I have in front of you, I have to be Mr. Motivator. I have to be Mr. Inspirer. So I'm actually consciously, intentionally acting my role in front of the camera. Number 2, light yourself up. So I hope that you can see just how delighted, how excited, and how grateful I am to have this opportunity to share my thoughts with you. But also, I'm literally lighting myself up. So many people are so bad virtually, they're so bad in front of a webcam that it's painful to even participate in a video call. So if you're even mediocre in front of a webcam, you're going to have a competitive advantage. And so if you take nothing else from my whole rant over here, just light yourself up like a Christmas tree when you're in front of a camera so that people don't see dark when they look at you. Number 3, make a powerful promise. Now, I'm not saying overpromise. I'm not saying make a promise that you cannot deliver against. What I am saying is make a promise that compels people to pay attention, because your biggest competitor is not your competitor. Your biggest competitor is the noise and the chaos and the distraction out there. So you want to make a promise that gets people to pay attention. It's got to be attractive to them. And then you've got to do whatever it takes to deliver against your promise. So my promise is very simple. I work with people to create breakthroughs that they otherwise would not have achieved. And then I do whatever it takes to help that person create the breakthrough. And as you heard earlier on, a breakthrough is whatever that person needs most in a specific moment. Number 4, and we heard Susan talk about this in depth, you want to listen like you really mean it. You know, listening is a very physical activity, especially when you're communicating virtually, which is going to be the dominant form of communication for the foreseeable future, even when everything opens up. So when people talk to me, I lean into the conversation. I repeat back to them what they've said. I ask for validation so that every step of the way, they know that I've been listening. And while I have the benefit of somebody's attention, I make sure that everything else is not in front of me. I make sure that I'm not looking at anything else that could deter me from or distract me from the conversation itself. And then finally, when it comes to charisma, you know, practice, practice, practice. Treat every conversation as an opportunity to sharpen your sword. Be in the moment, but also look at yourself virtually. So, you know, the great thing about video conferencing is that you can actually see yourself on the screen. You know, when I'm on a stage live in front of people, I tell them that I've got a virtual camera inside my head and I can watch myself talking to others. And people laugh because, you know, they know I'm making a joke, even though I'm making a serious point. But virtually, we can literally see ourselves speaking to others. So while you're talking to other people, watch yourself on the screen and ask yourself, If I was the other person, would I enjoy listening to me? Would I enjoy interacting with me? Watch yourself talking to the other person, and after every conversation, just do a little bit of a post-mortem and ask yourself what you could have done better to make that conversation even more compelling, and how you can become a highlight of anybody's day. You know, there's been another theme that has run through the entire afternoon, and that is this need to connect on a heart level. If there's one thing we've seen over the past 3 months, it's that we are one big global village. So COVID became a foe that unified over 7 billion people. And now what we're seeing specifically in the United States, and in fact here in Canada, is this acknowledgement that, you know, not all people have equal access to opportunity. Not all people are treated the same way. And really, it's our responsibility to correct that. Those who earn a lot need to give a lot. That's my version of, you know, the famous saying from the good book. So that's charisma. Let me wrap with the third superpower. And this is the one that if you haven't got, you're just not going to make it. Because think about this. Your biggest challenge over the next 6 to 12 months is not the extent of your bandwidth. It's not your financial resources. It's not the connections that you have. You wouldn't be on this call if you didn't have the right stuff. Ultimately, I'm here to share with you, it all comes down to energy. It all comes down to mojo. It all comes down to stamina. You know, someone once said to me, in the game of life, it's not about who's right, it's about who's left. So there are 5 final points that I'm going to share with you. And the first is, if you want to build your conditioning, if you want to build your resilience, you've got to compete like an Olympian. Now, when I say the word Olympian to you, you probably think, okay, well, that means you've got to train hard. It means you've got to have the talent. It means you've got to be qualified. Yes, of course it means those things. But let me share an amazing story with you. At the 2018 Pyeongchang Olympics in South Korea, there were 2,493 athletes competing for 221 gold medals. 2,493 athletes competing for 221 gold medals, which means there was a 90% chance you would not win your event. In fact, there was a 70 to 80% chance you wouldn't even win a bronze or a silver. So there was a 70 to 80% chance you would go back home without having won anything that you had just trained more than 4 years for. So what's the point that I'm making? You need to be able to handle disappointment without being destroyed. And I think the one thing that COVID has done is it's tested our character to the max. You know, someone once said, a crisis doesn't make your character, it reveals your character. So I will tell you that just like you, I'm taking my hits, I'm taking my knots, I'm getting rejected, I'm getting crushed on a daily basis. And the one thing that I keep top of mind is that however I react to this, that reveals who I am. And if there's a key thought I want you to take away from my communication, it's this. When you look back at this period, you want to be proud of who you were and how you handled all the setbacks, because a setback can become a stepping stone if you handle it in the right way. Number 2, you want to focus on what fires you up. So look, we'll be distributing this presentation to everyone on the call, but you know, this is such a simple message here, and that is this: at any moment in time, you can choose to focus on anything. So you can focus on this apocalypse. And by the way, the word apocalypse is defined by the Cambridge Dictionary as an event that causes great destruction and change. So you can focus on the destruction, you can focus on the billions of dollars lost, or you can focus on what excites you. And remember this, focus dictates where your energy goes, and where your energy goes, that's the kind of results that you generate. Number 3, discipline your distraction. So at any moment, while you're working on the really important things, there's CNN telling you about infection rates and fatality rates. And then there's coverage of the unrest. And then there's the market dropping by 1,800 points. So you need, and I need, when I'm doing something really important, to focus only on that. So as I'm talking to you now, I want to share with you The only thing that matters to me in the world, at least for the next 3 to 4 minutes, is this presentation. I'll worry about the rest of my life after that. Number 4, network with champions. Oftentimes people ask me, Mike, what's your recipe for success? What's the silver bullet? And I give them a single word: context. The context in which you live, the people with whom you spend the most time, the environment that you constantly in, that determines your level of success, your level of happiness, and ultimately your ability to sustain your prosperity. So, you know what? We're only as good as the company we keep, and we need to be good company to keep good company. So you want to network with the people who are on this call. You want to hang with people who you know are just a bit better or a lot better than you, because they're going to keep stretching you. Our brain is a network, but it's also a network of the network that we've built over the years. And, you know, there's been a key theme running through this conversation so far, and that is when we have built great relationships with great people over the years, we can now draw on those relationships because people want to tap into those resources that have come through for them. So network with champions, but just know this: what we do in this time is going to determine how people see us in the future. I know that, like me, many of you have got a favorite movie. It's called Gladiator. And in the movie, Russell Crowe, who played the role of Gladiator, said this immortal line. He said, "What we do today echoes through eternity." So treat this opportunity to network with champions and have champions see you as a champion, and they'll come through for you. So the final thing that I want to say here is, look, this is a struggle. This is hard. For many of us, this is the hardest thing we've ever had to do. You can be 90, you can be 100 years old and not having seen anything like this ever before. So this is going to be hard. And I want you to focus on that word celebrate, because someone once said to me, don't lament growing old. It's a privilege denied to many. And when we think about the power of health, when we think about the gift and the privilege of vitality, if all you have is vitality and health, the rest is possible. So celebrate the struggle, because, by the way, the struggle is what builds mental, emotional, physical, and even social muscle. So those are the 3 superpowers. You want certainty, you want charisma, you want conditioning. That enables you to create the breakthrough because you are the potentiator. So let me give you a final thought before I revert to Tommy and ask him a simple question. And that is this, final call to action here. Do it right by doing it right now. Don't wait for it to be perfect. Learn by doing something before you're ready, because that's how you get ready. You do it. And I don't know about you, but everything that I've evolved into, all the progress that I've made over the last 3 months has been because I've chosen to take action. So I'll give you my final thought here, and it's this. It's easier to act your way into a way of thinking than think your way into a way of action. Let me repeat that. It's easier to act your way into a way of thinking than think your way into a way of acting. In other words, emotion comes from motion. If you want to feel something